Firstly, I'd like to apologise that this is a little late. I was going to upload late last night, but I couldn't, and most of you already know the reason. And yeah, I also affected my plans of seeing The Ghostwriter tomorrow, so it was my third chance of seeing it, but I didn't get to see it. And it also affected me uploading this, so um, yeah, firstly, I'd like to apologise about that. But now, I thought it was time to review two movies, Scott Pilgrim vs. World and Tomorrow When War Began, because I have a few things to say about both. And I thought it would be best to review Scott Pilgrim because that came out first, and that's probably a review most of you are anticipating more. And I was really looking forward to Scott Pilgrim vs. World. I thought that looked really unique and just plain awesome. And not only does this movie deliver both of those, it also has almost everything you could want from a movie. One of the main things that really made me enjoy this movie was the characters. These characters are so real and full of life that you can't help but relate to them, and also in a really positive way as well. And also, this movie is so energetic with its style and pacing. Pacing. If you if you haven't already noticed, it sets itself like to look a bit like a video game world, and not like those video games now like Halo or Call of Duty. Instead, it's supposed to look like video games of Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and other nostalgic games like that. Now, put the uniques aside, this is still a great film. The dialogue is almost perfect in this. We're not trying too hard. It's not laughably pathetic like some of the dialogue in other movies we've seen over the last 2 years, the last Airbender. You couldn't you couldn't ask for anything more with the character development. Everyone explained with just as much detail as each of them need to be, and the action is just so awesome and energetic. And the acting, not too bad as well. As soon as it was said that Michael Cera was going to be in the film, most people were a little annoyed. And honestly, I don't see what's all bit wrong with him. But this is a perfect role for him. He's just gives such a believable performance, and he's really charming and quirky as Scott Pilgrim. This this movie is really quick, refreshing, and is one of those movies that Hollywood should be having a wet dream over. But somehow are not, which I don't understand because this movie is just a complete package. Now it's time to move to what I didn't like about the movie. The one main problem I had with this movie is that once Scott had gone past Evil X number 3, the movie starts to feel a little rushed, and by that I mean really rushed. Yeah, but just after he's beat Evil X number 3, it it they it just they feel so head on because it was almost as if they were watching the movie, what watched they had got so far, and they realized, "Ooh, we need to speed things up." And that was a damn shame because the break between Evil X 1, 2, and 3 was just perfect. It had a brilliant time to move on to some other characters and the other subplots. But just after Evil X number 3, and maybe, yeah, just after Evil X number 3, uh, they just feel so head on after each other, and it didn't work for me. It just felt too rushed. So, overall, Scott Pilgrim vs. World is an awesome, quick, witty, fast paced, and extremely refreshing film, which is almost everything you could want in a film. Scott Pilgrim was my fourth favourite film of the year, which just made things weird because Inception was my third most anticipated movie of the year. It is now my third favourite, and this was my fourth most anticipated of the year, and was my fourth favourite. But one film just had to stuff things up. So let's move on to Tomorrow When War Began, shall we? When I first saw the trailer for the film, I thought it didn't look too great and that I probably wouldn't see it. But when the second trailer came out, I thought that it looked quite good and I might see it. And then later on, I had this little thing inside me that made me want to see this movie so bad, and I was looking forward to it for no apparent reason. And after I saw the movie, I realised there are the people who see this movie because of the action scenes and the explosions, the people who see it because of attractive females, and the people who see it to be engaged in the story and just see a well made movie. And in the end, I got all three, which is a pretty good thing. And it's especially good because just a few days before I saw the movie, I got a little worried because I realized the person who wrote G.I. Joe not only was writing this movie, was also making his directorial debut. So let's start with what I liked about the movie. The pacing of this movie is just perfect. I did not find myself bored one bit in this movie. Also, even though this movie is pretty unrealistic, the film has this feel to it which makes it so much more realistic and makes you think that anybody could die in this, not just the bad guys. And these action sequences are pretty impressive as well. The action in this is not just objects exploding for the sake of it. You can tell that you can tell that this is actually happening for a reason and linked to the story in a big way. And there's also a very clever and well planned setup to the style of the action sequences, which I thought was really good and impressive. But the best thing about this movie is how good it was at keeping up the tension. My heart was pounding with excitement in the last 35 to 40 minutes of this movie. The suspense level was so good. And at the end climax, I could just not see what was going to happen in the end. It constantly kept me on the edge of my seat. And it just had an extreme amount of suspense. And the film also let itself up nicely for a sequel where it didn't have to have one, but the story could still be expanded on, which is great. And apparently, it'll be being made into a trilogy, so I look forward to seeing the next two films. What I didn't like about the movie is that it could definitely have been a little bit longer. I feel that not enough time was used in the beginning when they were camping. The film did not have to be an hour and 45 minutes and could have been longer. I think that would have been a wise choice just so they could have told us a bit more about characters in the beginning. I also thought that the villains or soldiers in this movie were never really introduced. And it's nice to see the story focus on only the teenagers, but I feel like we should have gone just 1 minute to tell us who they were and why they were there. So overall, I thought Tomorrow When the War Began was a well-made action suspense movie that really kept the tension going. I now forgive Stuart Bentley, or however you pronounce his last name, for writing G.I. Joe because his writing and directing in this was rather quite good compared to that terrible movie. Just don't make me say the title. So I'll give Tomorrow When the War Began 4 stars out of 5. So that's 4 stars out of 5 for Tomorrow When the War Began and 4.5 out of 5 for Scott Pilgrim vs. World. And yeah, it's really all I have to say. Oh, what's that I hear you say? You want me to hear more about the attractive females I mentioned earlier? well, the main character Ellie did look quite nice in some scenes, and in that scene where Fee was in a bikini, choice. Well, yeah, I'll see you guys next time, and I should be uploading my review of The Social Network on Saturday, probably. Came out today, so